There are moments when a woman notices an attractive man, and something changes before a single word is spoken. Not always in the dramatic way movies like to show. Sometimes it's almost invisible. She looks away a little too quickly. She laughs half a second later than everyone else. She suddenly becomes aware of where she's standing, what she's doing with her hands, whether her hair looks the way she hoped it did 5 minutes ago. Most people watching would miss it. But if you've ever wondered why someone's behavior seemed to change around you without any obvious reason, sometimes this quiet shift is where the answer begins. And if these kinds of hidden moments fascinate you, subscribe and stay with me. There are patterns in human behavior that are easy to overlook until someone finally points them out. Now, there's something many men misunderstand. They imagine attraction looks like confidence, but often it looks surprisingly close to nervousness. That's because attraction doesn't always make people feel secure. It often makes them more aware of themselves. Think about the last time you met someone who genuinely impressed you. Not someone famous, just someone whose presence made the room feel different. Maybe you suddenly became more careful with your words. Maybe you wondered if you sounded intelligent enough. Maybe silence felt louder. Women aren't immune to that feeling. Neither are men. It's simply what can happen when another person matters more than expected. I've watched this play out in conversations for years. A woman walks into a room completely relaxed. She's laughing with friends, speaking freely, making jokes. Then someone catches her attention. Nothing dramatic happens. No music, no movie scene. Just a pause. She fixes her posture without realizing it. She checks whether she's smiling too much. She becomes strangely aware of every sentence she says, not because she's pretending, because suddenly, being seen feels important, and that's a vulnerable place for anyone. Many men never recognize this because they expect attraction to look bold. Sometimes it does. Sometimes a confident woman will make direct eye contact, start conversations, smile openly. But confidence and attraction aren't the same thing. An emotionally secure woman may become playful. A shy woman may become quieter. Someone naturally outgoing might suddenly lose her train of thought. Another woman might become even louder than usual, almost as if she's trying to hide the fact that she feels nervous. Different personalities protect vulnerability in different ways. That's why simple rules almost always fail. Human beings are more complicated than internet lists. There's another detail that's easy to miss. When someone becomes emotionally interested, their attention often narrows. Not completely, just enough. She may still hear the conversation around her, but part of her mind keeps checking one thing. What does he think of me? She may never say those words. She may not even consciously notice them. Yet they quietly influence tiny decisions. Should she speak first? Should she wait? Did that joke sound awkward? Was that smile too obvious? It's interesting, isn't it? Because men often imagine women spend these moments analyzing the man. Sometimes they're actually analyzing themselves. And that's where everything begins to become much more complicated. Because once self-awareness enters the room, people start hiding feelings they weren't planning to hide at all. There's a quiet moment that almost nobody notices. It usually happens after the first impression, when the excitement settles just enough for uncertainty to slip in. She may still be smiling, still talking, still making eye contact. But inside, another conversation has started. Not with you, with herself. Am I coming across the way I want to? It's a question people rarely admit asking. Yet in many cases, it's there. You can see it in the smallest pauses. She starts telling a story, then stops halfway to change a detail that suddenly doesn't feel interesting enough. She reaches for her drink, even though she isn't thirsty. She brushes a strand of hair behind her ear for the second time in 30 seconds, not because those actions have magical meaning. They don't. By themselves, they mean almost nothing. Context matters, personality matters, the moment matters, but when several little changes appear together, they sometimes reveal that someone has become more aware of being observed. And awareness changes behavior, more than people realize. I've seen men misunderstand this countless times. A woman becomes quieter around them. Immediately they assume she isn't interested. Maybe. That certainly happens. But sometimes, she simply stopped feeling invisible. There's a difference. When we don't care how someone sees us, conversation flows almost effortlessly. Words come easily. We interrupt ourselves. We laugh without thinking. We don't replay every sentence in our heads. But once another person's opinion begins to matter, even a simple question can feel strangely important. What kind of music do you like? An ordinary question. Until suddenly, it feels like your answer says something about who you are. That pressure isn't unique to women. Men experience it too, just in different ways. Some become quieter, others become overly confident. Some talk too much, some barely speak at all. We're all trying, in our own imperfect ways, to protect something that suddenly feels fragile. And that's often what attraction does. Not because attraction is weakness, because it creates the possibility of rejection. And rejection has a curious effect on the human mind. It doesn't have to happen. The possibility alone can reshape behavior. That's why you'll sometimes notice contradictions. A woman who is confident with everyone else suddenly hesitates before sending a text. She writes it, deletes it, writes something shorter, deletes that too. Finally, she sends a message that sounds much more casual than she actually feels. Not to play games, simply because vulnerability can feel uncomfortable, especially when the outcome matters. Most men never see that hidden process. They only see the finished message, the delayed reply, the brief smile, the awkward laugh. They're looking at the surface. They don't see the dozens of tiny decisions happening underneath. And then something even more interesting begins. The mind starts looking for reassurance, not always directly, rarely through obvious questions. Instead, it watches, very quietly. Does he seem relaxed around me? Did his expression change when I said that? Was that compliment genuine? Or was he simply being polite? Notice what happened there. The focus shifted. At first, she was simply reacting to your presence. Now she's trying to understand your reactions. This is where many connections quietly grow, or quietly disappear. Because the next few moments often have less to do with appearance, and much more to do with emotional safety. And the surprising part is, the men who create that feeling usually aren't doing what everyone assumes they are. It's easy to believe that attraction rises or falls because of the perfect sentence, the perfect joke, the perfect compliment. But after watching people for years, I don't think that's where the biggest changes happen. They happen in the spaces between the words. Imagine this. A woman is talking to a man she finds genuinely attractive. She's telling him about a trip she took with her friends. Halfway through the story, she notices something. He's not interrupting. He's not scanning the room. He's not waiting for his turn to speak. He's simply there. His attention isn't loud. It isn't performative. It's calm. And something inside her begins to relax. Not all at once. Just enough. Because one of the quietest emotional needs many people have is the feeling of being fully seen for a moment. Not evaluated. Not impressed. Seen. That feeling is surprisingly rare. Many conversations become competitions without anyone intending them to. People compare stories, compare achievements, compare confidence, compare status. It's exhausting. So when someone listens without trying to win, the atmosphere changes. This doesn't guarantee attraction. Human connection is far too complex for guarantees. But in many cases, emotional comfort makes natural attraction easier to express. There's another moment that's even more revealing. It usually happens after she says something slightly embarrassing. Maybe she mixes up her words. Maybe she laughs too hard at a joke. Maybe she tells a story that doesn't land the way she expected. For one brief second, she looks at your face, not to admire you, to check if she's safe. It's almost instinctive. If she senses criticism, even subtle criticism, part of her may begin pulling back, not because she's overly sensitive, because emotional risk has suddenly increased. But if she notices warmth, patience, a relaxed smile that says, "You're fine," without actually saying it, something different can happen. Her shoulders soften, her voice becomes steadier, She starts speaking the way she did before self-consciousness interrupted her. That shift is easy to miss, yet it's one of the most genuine changes you'll ever witness. Here's where many men accidentally create distance. They assume attraction must always be intensified. More flirting, more teasing, more trying to prove themselves. Sometimes they're solving a problem that doesn't exist. When someone already feels drawn toward you, constantly trying to impress can quietly communicate another message. I don't believe who I am is enough. Confidence isn't about acting untouched by another person. It's about remaining comfortable enough to stay yourself while being interested. There's a quiet strength in that, and people often feel it before they can explain it. Now, this doesn't mean becoming emotionally unavailable. That's a misunderstanding that spreads easily. Being distant is not the same as being secure. Someone who is emotionally mature doesn't create mystery by disappearing. They create comfort by being consistent. There's a difference, a very important one, because consistency slowly answers questions that attraction alone cannot. Can I trust this person? Will today's warmth disappear tomorrow? Am I seeing the real him, or only the version he's trying to sell? Those questions often remain unspoken, yet they shape emotional decisions every single day. And then, something fascinating begins to happen. Once a woman no longer feels the need to protect herself quite so much, you may notice reactions that have almost nothing to do with trying to look attractive. They're quieter, more honest, and strangely enough, those are often the moments that reveal the deepest level of interest. There comes a point where attraction stops looking like attraction, at least on the surface. It starts looking like comfort. And that's where many men become confused, because they were expecting bigger signals, bolder ones. Instead, she begins acting more like herself. She laughs without covering her mouth. She forgets to choose the perfect words. She tells you about something that didn't make her look impressive. Maybe she admits she was nervous before a job interview. Maybe she confesses she cried over something she now finds a little embarrassing. Not because she's trying to create sympathy, because little by little, she's deciding it's safe to stop performing. That decision is rarely made all at once. Trust usually grows in tiny moments. A conversation that feels easy, a disagreement that doesn't become a fight, a silence that doesn't feel awkward. Those moments seem ordinary, but emotionally, they're doing quiet work beneath the surface. I've noticed something interesting. When a woman feels comfortable around someone she finds attractive, she often stops trying to fill every silence. In the beginning, silence can feel dangerous. Say something. Don't let this get awkward. The mind rushes to protect the connection. But later, the silence changes. You're walking together. Neither of you is speaking. There's no pressure, no panic, just the sound of footsteps. Maybe a passing car. Maybe the wind moving through the trees. And somehow, it feels full instead of empty. That's a different kind of closeness. It's the kind that doesn't ask for constant proof. Of course, this doesn't happen in every relationship. Some people stay guarded for a long time because of past experiences. Others naturally open up more quickly. Human beings don't all move at the same pace. That's worth remembering, because impatience has quietly ended many promising connections. Not because either person lacked feelings, but because one expected certainty before the other was emotionally ready to offer it. There's another reaction that often surprises men. A woman who feels genuinely interested may begin noticing very small details about you, not because she's collecting information, because attention follows emotional investment. She remembers the coffee you said you liked weeks ago. She asks how that meeting went. She notices you've been quieter than usual. These aren't dramatic gestures, they're subtle, and that's exactly why they're meaningful. Our minds naturally remember what feels emotionally important. Sometimes she'll even notice changes you assume no one else would see. A different haircut, a tired expression, a joke that wasn't really a joke. She doesn't always mention these things, but often she notices. Then something unexpected can happen. She becomes less interested in appearing perfect and more interested in understanding you. She asks questions that don't sound rehearsed. What made you choose that? Were you always like this? What were you thinking when that happened? Those questions aren't really about facts. They're about discovering the person behind the image, because physical attraction may catch someone's attention. But emotional curiosity is often what keeps them looking. And when that curiosity begins to grow, another quiet shift starts inside her, one that many men completely overlook. It's the moment she stops wondering whether she likes you, and starts wondering whether the two of you could actually fit into each other's lives. That's the question almost nobody talks about. Not, is he attractive? Not, did we have chemistry? Those questions matter. But after the first excitement begins to settle, another one quietly takes their place. What would life actually feel like with him? It's a surprisingly ordinary question, and because it's ordinary, it often carries more weight than the dramatic ones. Imagine you're sitting across from her at a small cafe. The conversation has slowed down, not because there's nothing left to say, because neither of you is trying so hard anymore. She watches the way you thank the server. She notices whether you become impatient when something takes longer than expected. She hears how you speak about people who aren't in the room. You probably don't realize she's paying attention. In many cases, she isn't even doing it on purpose. Our minds naturally gather small clues when someone begins to matter. Not to judge every detail, to imagine the future. Would this person make my life feel calmer or more complicated? Would I feel accepted or like I'm constantly trying to earn approval? Those aren't questions people usually ask out loud. They show up as feelings, a sense of ease or hesitation, and that's why attraction alone rarely tells the whole story. There are people who make your heart race, but leave your mind restless. And there are people whose presence quietly lowers your guard. Neither feeling guarantees a lasting relationship, but emotional steadiness often gives attraction room to grow instead of burning out too quickly. Here's something I've noticed that stays with me. The men who leave the strongest impression are not always the loudest. They're often the ones who don't seem desperate to convince anyone of their worth. They can laugh at themselves. They admit when they don't know something. They stay curious instead of defensive. That kind of confidence feels different. It's gentle. It doesn't demand attention. It earns trust. Ironically, that can make someone even more attractive over time, not because they followed a secret formula, because they allowed another person to experience who they really were, without forcing, without pretending, without rushing intimacy. And maybe this is the realization many men need to hear. You don't have to interpret every smile as attraction. You don't have to treat every quiet moment as rejection. Human behavior is rarely that simple. Sometimes a woman is interested but shy. Sometimes she's friendly and nothing more. Sometimes she's still figuring out her own feelings. And sometimes she genuinely doesn't know yet. That's normal. Real connection isn't built by reading every glance like a hidden code. It's built by showing up with honesty, patience, and enough self-respect that your confidence doesn't depend on getting one particular answer. Because the most attractive quality isn't the ability to make someone react. It's becoming the kind of man who feels comfortable enough to let people choose freely. There's a quiet strength in that. And strangely enough, when you stop chasing certainty in every interaction, you begin noticing something far more valuable. The women who are genuinely drawn to you often stop hiding it quite so much. Not because you've learned a trick, but because your calm presence gives them permission to stop performing too. And that's where the most meaningful connections usually begin. Not in the excitement of being noticed, but in the relief of finally feeling understood.